Hello and welcome to my first YouTube as Self-Love Lydia. I was about to say my first YouTube episode, but it's actually not. I've done YouTube videos back in the day when I was Lid Fit, but yeah, I'm making a comeback. It feels exciting. I feel a little bit nervous though, I don't know why. I feel like this is such a new platform, but anyway. I thought I would come in on the first session and do a body Q&A because this is the perfect space to go into these types of questions, and I just thought I would also do it while I'm doing my makeup. So it's a chilled one, it's laid back. I asked you guys for questions on Instagram and you all kindly enough responded to me with some really good questions, so thank you so much for that. So let's dive into them. The first one that I think is really funny, and I do get this as well, I don't really care about what I look like anymore. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Okay, so I really did go through a phase of this, I'll be honest, when I come back from travelling, because I had just been so like unbothered for many months. And then I come back and I think that kind of rubbed off. Like I just wasn't bothered about like clothes or the way I looked anymore. And I had to really find that balance again. I do think it's important, and I think it's important not for other people. Well, I'll go into that. I think it's important because, you know, it's okay for us to look nice and want to look nice, and actually that's really fun. And you can find a really nice balance. It's not that you're caring about what you look like anymore in one sense, you know, like in that shallow need and feeling like you have to look good all the time. But it's, I don't know, for me it just feels like a self-respect thing to just present myself looking a certain way, which I'll be honest I don't always get, because you know me on social media, I will often turn up with frizzy hair and my glasses on and some tie-dye t-shirt. But I do think it's good to find that balance. I do think it's good for us, you know, it's good for people that we are with. So that's my response to that question, but I totally hear you with that one. How to get the balance between body positivity and being healthy? Again, that's another really good question, because I think that is, I don't know why there's this assumption and association around body positivity and not being healthy. I don't know where that's come from. Like, maybe that's come from influencers on social media. I can't really comment, so I don't know. But what I do know is it's a space and it's a question that people ask a lot. So what I would say is listen to the podcast episode I done on body positivity versus diet culture. I will link it in the description of this video, and I go into ways that you can navigate that space and what that means in terms of accepting yourself and also wanting to be healthy and look after your body and respect your body. So listen to that question. Someone else asked, comparing yourself to your younger self, which feels like, yeah, I guess maybe in ways we can all relate to that. I think for me, what comes to mind when, you know, what comes to mind for me when I hear that is I don't really compare myself to my younger self. But I think the reason being is I don't do that because I really, when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, struggled a lot. Like, I didn't know where my place was. I didn't accept myself. In fact, I didn't really like myself in my younger years. So, you know, I went through a really hard time coming out of high school, transitioning into my middle 20s, where I didn't have friends, I didn't have self-worth. You know, I was constantly thinking something was wrong with me. I was very insecure, very jealous. So for me, in that sense, I don't compare, but I think if you mean in the sense of like your body, comparing yourself to your younger self for your body, one of the things I always say to people is like, one, just actually think about what you're doing. Like, strip it back and think really, really into the fact that you are comparing yourself to a time in your life that is never going to be the same again. You know, the natural process of life is aging, it's cycles, it's change. But I feel like what happens is we are so fearful of aging. You know, we don't live in the present moment. So what happens is, because we overlook and we fail to really appreciate the times that we're in, and then on top of that we're so disconnected from our bodies, when we get to a certain phase we then compare to that, like it should be that, like when the gym was a priority or youth was on our side and it was, you know, our metabolism was much quicker, or we hadn't had kids, or we were single, any of these phases that we compare ourselves to, it's literally an impossible comparison. So I always think, one, why do we do that? It just says a lot about us as humans, really, doesn't it? And two, you are literally setting yourself up for failure. You are setting yourself up to never feel satisfied within your body. So for me, do I compare myself now? Not really. No, because I know for me, even if I look at old pictures of my body, it's never been about the body. Does that make sense? So like, I've never found a level of happiness or acceptance. I'm just looking for a different concealer, like a darker one. Yeah, I've never found that level of acceptance, even when I was at my thinnest. So I think that's really made me realise. But, you know, just take a minute. My advice to people is really, really think about what you're comparing yourself to and what was going on in your life back then. You know, was you being, were your habits with food or training healthy? Were you at a time where the gym could be a priority? Like, what's so different? And then just lean into accepting who you are now, because you can never get that time back. So when you compare it to your younger years, you can never ever get that time back. And actually, if you did think that body was amazing or that body was perfect, well, why didn't you accept it then? And then that makes you realise that it's a deeper reason why you don't accept yourself. So that's my advice for that one. And you know, it can seem a little bit deep, that response, but I think these things deserve often a deep response, because they're things that we really struggle with. And I know when I was a personal trainer, so many women would come to me and be like, you know, before I had kids I look like this, and I'd be like, yeah, but you've had kids, so the times have changed. Like, comparing is just so difficult. So what's amazing about you now, I would also get, like, just think about. Another question. What did you find hardest from going from a PT fitness mindset to self-acceptance? Interesting question. You know, the thing that comes to mind is, I remember, no, the hardest thing was not getting validation from my body and shifting my need for validation from my body. That was so hard for me to do, because when I was a personal trainer, honestly, my DMs would be full of messages. Posts that I put up would get amazing engagements because they were my body, they were my bum. It was all superficial. And I was in a cycle for a long time, and I'm not even afraid to admit this. I was in a cycle for a long time of getting a lot of validation on social media, and that making me feel full in terms of my self-worth. but my self-worth was obviously attached to my body. And I thrived on that, because I think a lot of people, when they're insecure, social media is a platform that can allow for that. So when I really began on this journey with my body and coming away from the excessive training and the excessive restriction with food, my priorities changed, and I stopped posting certain pictures. And not getting that level of validation was very difficult for me, because then I had to become aware that I needed to validate myself. I needed to fill my own cup up. I needed to find my worthiness outside of the way that I looked, and that was a big thing for me. And I really do think that was probably the hardest thing. Everything else, to be honest, I'd say one of the other things that was a little bit difficult, because I had a social media platform, is when I started to transition into just like being, just like really sharing my journey. That I didn't even ever intend to start like talking about this type of self-love stuff, but I would just be like in between clients, and you know, if I was hungry, I'd just pop over to McDonald's, and let's say in the morning I'd get like just an egg McMuffin or one of those chicken wraps, like not as a meal. And I'd just be talking away on Instagram and eating the food that I was eating. And, you know, personal trainers would message me and be like, you're not setting a good example for your clients. Or people that followed me would be like, you're saying you live fit, but you're not, like you're not being this person that you say you're being. And that was difficult as well, because that really forced me to step into that authenticity and really begin to use my voice. But in the process of doing that, I had to really look at myself and be like, is what I'm doing wrong? And, you know, is this bad? And then I was like, no, fuck that. Like, I'm busy and I'm hungry. So I think that's where, like, honestly, the momentum began to build with me just being like this real person on social media. So that was a little bit difficult too. I'm in a delusional state is the next question. I force myself to feel my body is okay because I'm tired of hating it. So I thought that was a question, but from the sounds of what I'm getting from that, it feels like that doesn't feel like your truth, and that it's being forced. You know, this may be wrong, so if it is, I can only go off like the sense of what I'm getting from that comment. One of the things I would say is, don't force yourself to feel like you have to be in a certain space. And the reason being is because you can't outrun these feelings that you have about your body. So what I would say to people who feel that way or are so tired of feeling a certain way about their body, if you have the means to do so, invest in a coach or save your money up to begin to invest in other people to help you. If you've got to the stage where you're so tired and you've tried everything, that next level is the investment where somebody can come in and hold that space for you and help you and really allow you to get honest and go to the places that you need to about your body, and it's really personal. So I would say that's something I would suggest, but don't force it. Like, I know it's so difficult when you're so tired, but really begin to just like, I always say to people, right, there's so much discussion around body acceptance and body positivity and body love. It's hard for some people to even get to that space. It's hard for some people to wake up and think, I hate my body, and so that means I automatically have to go to I love my body. Like, that in my opinion is bullshit. It doesn't work like that. You know, not every day I wake up and I love my body, and that's okay, but I no longer hate my body. I no longer punish my body. I no longer resent my body, and that for me is where I win in that. So actually what I would say is, if it feels too difficult to feel that your body is lovable or amazing or sexy or perfect, how you think about how you feel now. What feels like the next step up from that? So what feels just a little bit lighter? And this is one of the things I actually go into in the Divine in the Body Week, and it's such a game changer. So how can you just move up that emotional scale and then do the work that you need to do to begin to feel that next level up? And then when that feels like the norm, you go to the next level up, and essentially you work your way up this ladder of like how you feel emotionally about your body. And constantly what you're doing at every level is you're rewriting the way that you feel, and you're rewriting the associations and the emotions that are attached to your body. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, the things that you think, you feel, you experience in relation to that. So just try that. So think of like the lowest that you feel, the highest that you think you can feel. So the highest might be love for your body, the lowest might be hatred. What's the gap in between those in terms of the emotions? And just baby steps, just work at that every single day. That's a really good piece of advice I often give to people. What do I do whenever I move forward and feel the self-love done the work, then power's gone? Let me tell you, the work will never be done, unfortunately. I think people often, I know a lot of clients, especially when they come to me and they begin working with me, they really have this perception of what it's going to be like potentially when they finish, and they feel like they will come to the end of coaching with me and all this shit will be sorted out. And what happens is often they realise the true meaning of what self-love is by the time they get to the end of our sessions, and they understand that it's continuous work, but they've connected to that magic of what's possible. Like now they know it's possible, so they accept that process. They accept that it's a journey, it's a never-ending journey to like illuminating these parts of yourself and understanding yourself. So what I would say is acceptance with that. Like, that's so normal, by the way, and that's absolutely fine, but I get also that it's quite frustrating. So it's like when you say you feel like it's gone, if that means for you that you feel like, oh, my blusher brush, I haven't got it. If that means for you that when you say gone, it means it's not there. The self-love is always there, but what you have to tune into and tap into is, what do I need right now in this moment that can bring me back to myself, that can bring me back to that grounding? So that will be different things at different times, and the more aware you are of yourself, then the more you will be able to tap in and just drop in and be like, okay, what is it that I need in this moment? That's very important. So it's never gone, it's always there, it's always available for you to tap into. It's just you think that it's gone. So are you associating self-love with a certain feeling that you get? Are you associating it where when you wake up and you feel positive? You know, what's your understanding of how self-love shows up in your life? And then my other little bit of advice would be, you need to understand or begin to journal and get clear on how self-love can show up in the days when it doesn't feel easy, or in the days when you feel like it's gone. Like, what can you do in those moments to bring yourself back? Because self-love is you, it's nobody else. So if it feels like it's gone, that for me feels like, is there a disconnect from yourself? Is there something that you're struggling to tap into? Do you have an expectation that there's something there that should be showing up? And also don't think that just by having self-love, all of these thoughts, these behaviours and these things that we do go, because they never go, they don't go. We still have those thoughts, we still have the fear, we still have the doubt, we still have the negative self-talk. All of the bullshit is still there, but what happens is when you have self-love, you can just come back, drop in, and be that centre that you need in the moment for yourself. So that's my advice for that question. Ooh, interesting question. How have the people around you influenced the way that you look at yourself? I don't know. Actually, that's a really interesting question. I guess the biggest thing I would say for that is the people around me now really influence me in the sense that often I get caught up in the process and I struggle to see how far I've come. So the people around me really, really remind me of that, like my friends and stuff, and you know, people who follow me on social media and people in my life will always remind me and be like, Lydia, you literally have been in this game for like 2 minutes, like look at how fast you're changing. And I think they just really, really center me and ground me in that, because sometimes I'm like wanting all of these things, and yeah, I just get caught up on that sometimes I fail to stop and be like, oh, okay, what have I achieved? Like, let's celebrate what I've actually achieved and how far I've come. So I think that's the influence, I would say. I would say as well though, growing up, like when I was in sixth form and I went through that period where I was like bullied and stuff and I lost a lot of friends, that influenced me in a really negative way, because I honestly believed that something was wrong with me. I honestly believed that I was a horrible person, and that's why people didn't want to be my friend, and yeah, that I was just, no one liked me and it was all my fault, I think, because I just had a series of experiences in the relationship where I never felt good enough, losing friends, you know, being picked on in sixth form, being bullied and all of these things, and it was really, really hard. But you know what, that experience was so beneficial because it just like, it really made me come back to myself. Like it really, really made me be there for myself and understand who I was at that time. And so like in a way I am grateful for that experience, even though, you know, that time of my life was so shit and so hard. But I think we all have that. Well, I don't know, some people maybe not, but oh my god, I can't multitask and do my eyebrows. It's literally impossible. How do you people do that? Next question is, what's one thing you've learned to love about yourself? Interesting. One thing I've learned to love about myself is that I am a hot-headed Scorpio woman, and I truly believed when I had my spiritual awakening and I really began to learn about all of these wonderful things, I truly believed that I had to lose that part of myself because it didn't make me spiritual. You know, the fact that I am quite hot-headed and the fact that I am quite cutthroat at times, I really saw that as a negative, and I think I did see that because I was reading all of the things that were telling me what a spiritual person was, and you know, if we are controlled by the ego and all of these things, then you know, we're not really tapped into that truest part of ourselves. So one thing I've learned to love about myself is exactly that, the fact that I am hot-headed, I am strong-willed, I am opinionated. You know, I can be nice and gracious, but I can also tell you to get the fuck out of my face. So I have these various sides of me. So that was really interesting because I felt like I really had to detach from that side of me, and actually that was like the opposite of what self-love felt like. You know, that was like the opposite of discovering more things about myself and discovering who I was and truly leaning into that self-acceptance. It felt like the opposite to then try and get away from something. So I've just learned to accept it now. I just accept who I am, and I just obviously manage that side of me better. Tips for building body confidence during sex. Interesting question. The reason why I feel so interesting as well is because I really believe it's so interlinked. So one of the things I would say, the first thing that comes to mind is, the more you understand your own body, the easier it becomes to be in a sexual situation with somebody else. So if you're not tapping into your own sense of pleasure, you're not feeling your own body, you're not understanding what you like and you dislike, when you go into a situation with somebody else, if you're not body confident, then you're relying on that other person, and it's like we go into a dark room and we're anxious about what we may feel in the process, because it's like if we don't feel our own bodies, the thought can feel worse of somebody touching our own bodies, because we just fabricate all of these things like, oh my god, when they feel my stomach, oh my god, if they feel my boobs, oh my god, if I'm in this position, oh my god, do I look disgusting with the lights on? Like, we just create these stories, and it's just like literally so ridiculous, and these stories feed our insecurities so bad. So one of the biggest things I suggest for building body confidence is get to know your body, spend time with your body, touch your body. And that doesn't have to be a big thing of like lying down and if it feels awkward to do that. One of the things I spoke about, I think it was the last round of the Divine, I told the ladies to do is buy yourself like a beautiful body oil or a moisturiser, and spend time putting that on and be present when you put that moisturiser on or that body oil. Really rub it into your skin, feel how your body feels when you do that. Other ways you can begin to like connect with your body is certain music, set the scene, sexual pleasure, orgasms on your own. That's very important. And then the second thing I would say is like communication within sex is a big thing. So like if a certain position doesn't make you feel good about your body, communicate that. If someone touching a certain part of your body doesn't make you feel the best, then just like communicate these things. It's okay to do that, because what we've got to start doing is putting our needs on the table when it comes to these things. Also, buying nice underwear is another big one, but I honestly just feel like when we're in sex, we're so in the head. Like I've spoke about this before, it's in like a really amazing book that I've read. We take the observer role in sex, which means we drop out of our body and come into our head and constantly think about what the other person is thinking about us or feeling when they're having sex with us, which just completely turns us off, obviously. And like I've just said, often those insecurities will feed like all of these crazy things, like how your body may feel or you may look at in a certain angle. So the more you drop into your body, so actually what happened is the camera cut out, but as I was saying, so the more you drop into your body, you're building body confidence by connecting to that sexual energy, and you realize that tapping into that energy you can do regardless of like the way that you are showing up within your body. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And the last question I want to answer is how to separate your self-worth from your body. And I think this is a really good question to end on, because I know a lot of people will struggle with this one, and I know this is something that a lot of us do. And my advice to this is, there's two things I would suggest. The first one is beginning to look at yourself for who you are as a person and the reasons why the people in your life love you. What are the qualities that you have about you as a person? What are the amazing experiences, the amazing things that you've achieved? Not even achieved actually, in terms of like achieving or something, but achieve just for you and your humanness. Like, what are the amazing things that you've done? Really connect to that and connect to why other people love you, and strip it way back from your body. And then the second thing I want to invite you to do is close your eyes and connect to yourself as a small baby. So I want you to imagine you're there and you're just roaming around, and you put your arms out to somebody. It could be you now. You could visualize it as if it was your parent, somebody that you love dearly. And I want you to visualize that you tell that little baby version of you that no, like, you're not good enough. And the reason why I invite you to do that, as uncomfortable as it may be, is for the reason that feeling that uncomfortability will allow you to understand truly in your heart and your body when it feels, when you're telling yourself that you are not good enough because of your body. Because that same feeling is still prominent now for you as an adult woman, but you're so used to feeling like it's normal, and we're often so disconnected from our bodies that we don't really register the true impact that has when we connect our self-worth to our body. And you know, those negative emotions that we're really putting onto ourselves. So when you imagine saying it to that little baby version of you, it really hits home, because you would never tell a child, or you would never tell that little baby version of you, you're not good enough because of your body. You know, when you grow taller, or when you lose that little baby chubby weight off your legs, or you know, when your belly's a little bit slimmer, then I'll pick you up and I'll love you. Like, you would never dream of saying that. And that's so powerful, because when we come into this world, we are so pure and we are so worthy. And then what happens is we consume information, and we are socially conditioned to believe that our attractiveness is the biggest determining factor of our self-worth. We are conditioned as women to attach our body to our worthiness and our attractiveness, because they are the pinnacles of being female, or so we're taught to believe. And then we are given this ideal that constantly moves, that is never achievable, that we should look like. And when we look like that, that's when we are good enough. So at the point you begin consuming this information is the point that these beliefs begin to become yours. But actually, when you come into this world, you're just so pure, and people love you for who you are, and you are worthy enough regardless of what your little baby body is like. So really connect to that and feel that in your heart. And every time you feel yourself judging or being unkind to yourself because of the way that your body is, or feeling like you're not worthy of love or respect, or that job that you want to go for, or that connection with somebody else, or to wear that outfit, think about you as that little baby, and think in that moment, would I treat my younger self like this? Would I treat my baby version like this? No, you wouldn't, because you would never want it to feel that way. So connect with that as well. That's a really good, powerful tool. So I hope you enjoyed the end of this YouTube. It did cut out, but to be honest, I didn't really do much else. I just put like a lip oil on. But all of the things I have been using are collection. Remember, you may have seen on Instagram that I done the influencer day with them. Well, the makeup is so nice, so I've just used all of that for my face. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, comment if you enjoyed it, let me know how you found it, and I shall be back with another YouTube video soon. So take care. I see you, I love you, I appreciate you.